What happens a back-able agreeableness collides with determined journalistic poise? What happens a bedfellow who expects aberration and ascendancy is a back affected to face a host who refuses to bend? This wasn't a Loof edition morning allocution. Appearance segment. What abundant on the Tamron Hall appearance was a televised affray amid ego and integrity. And it larboard admirers stunned. The date of the Tamron Hall appearance gleamed with its accepted warmth. Flat 6A was abounding with the hum of anticipation. The admirers, active as cameras, swept beyond acquisitive faces. At the centermost sat Tamron Hall herself, collected, elegant, every movement deliberate. On paper, it was declared to be a bland account about Meghan's latest altruistic endeavor, but the air, already acquainted, added than the affair suggested. "Meghan, exceed you for abutting us." Tamron began with her cast professionalism, warm but steady. "You've been in the account absolutely a bit lately. Afore we dive into your new project, I'd like to ask, how are you and Harry doing?" The accessible is consistently curious. It was the gentlest of openers, but Meghan's eyes flickered with article aciculate afore her aperture arced into a smile that didn't absolutely ability her eyes. "We're wonderful, Tamron. Bigger than ever. Honestly, I acquisition it a little annoying that bodies anticipate they accept the appropriate to consistently brainstorm about our marriage. Maybe bodies should focus on their own relationships instead of absorbing over mine." The admirers confused uncomfortably, a few chuckles bouncing through, but Tamron's announcement remained neutral, unfazed. "Fair enough," she replied smoothly. "But the belief comes in allotment from how accessible you and Harry accept been about your claimed lives. Do you anticipate that artlessness invites curiosity?" Meghan leaned aback in her chair, her aspect beaming accomplished confidence. "I don't see it as openness. I see it as acclamation narratives that others accept twisted. Aback you're consistently. Beneath attack sometimes you accept to a ledge up. We're aloof absorption ourselves. That's hardly an allurement for gossip." The admirers clapped politely, admitting the bend in Meghan's accent didn't go unnoticed. Tamron kept her articulation even. And yet, the rumors persist. Some say Harry struggles with dispatch abroad from aristocratic duty. Others buzz about astriction amid him and his family. How do you cross those challenges? Meghan's smile accustomed into article afterpiece to a smirk. "You know, Tamron, I anticipate it's antic that bodies abide to advance this abstraction of tension. Harry and I are altogether fine. Honestly, it sounds like projection. Maybe it's the media who can't let go, not Harry." There was a chaw in her words now, and a few bodies in the admirers exchanged glances. Tamron, anytime composed, artlessly nodded, flipping through her addendum with backward grace. "Let's about face for a moment to your accord with the aristocratic family." Tamron continued, her articulation steady. "Looking back, do you anticipate there was any way things could accept gone differently? Abounding accept appropriate that cultural differences, expectations, and traditions ability accept played a part." Meghan's eyes narrowed slightly. "What bodies? Don't accept is that I entered that ancestors with the best of intentions. But a back an academy refuses to acclimate or modernize, there's little anyone can do. Frankly, I don't anticipate the botheration was me. I anticipate the botheration was them. And if bodies can't see that, well, that's their ignorance, not mine." The allowance grew still. The accurateness of her accent assorted heavily with Tamron's abiding demeanor. "Some would say that's absolutely an able statement," Tamron offered gently. "It's the truth," Meghan snapped, admitting she approved to abate it with addition able smile. "I don't belie things. Maybe that's why some bodies accept a botheration with me. I debreed a comedy forth with anachronous traditions that don't serve anyone anymore." A ripple of murmurs anesthetized through the flat audience. Meghan's words, afraid in the air, waited with arrogance. But Tamron, still poised, didn't acceleration to the bait. Instead, she confused the focus. You had a acknowledged acting career afore your marriage. Do you any time absence that allotment of your life? Meghan Aji her head, her announcement abstemious with disdain. Honestly, acting feels atomic compared to the assignment I do now. I've outgrown that. The abstraction of me activity aback to Hollywood account and scripts accounting by bodies who don't accept the world. Well, let's aloof say I've confused on to bigger things, important things. The army gave a affable annular of applause, admitting it articulate added afraid than enthusiastic. Tamron's calm remained unbroken, but her eyes told an altered story. She had taken note. So, she said softly, you don't accept your acting career shaped the belvedere you accept today? Of advance not, Meghan scoffed, bouncing a duke dismissively. My belvedere is congenital on who I am and what I angle for, not on some TV role I larboard abaft years ago. And there it was, the aboriginal absolute able in the able veneer. The arrogance, the dismissal, the abnegation to exceed her past. Tamron, analysis it, leaned any time so hardly forward, her accent still velvet, but with animate underneath. Well, she said, our admirers may accept their own thoughts on that. The admirers erupted in broadcast applause, admitting Meghan's eyes, darted briefly, analytic for approval that seemed beneath assertive now. The restriction in the flat was rising, subtle but undeniable. What had amorphous as a affable barter was evolving into article sharper, article raw, and anybody watching could feel it. The hum of the flat lights seemed louder now, admitting. In accuracy, it was the blackout amid Tamron and Meghan that abounding the air. The admirers confused in their seats, analysis that the bland apparent of a morning account had amorphous to crack, and what lay beneath was unpredictable. Tamron smiled, politely, her easily bankrupt neatly over her notes. Meghan, let's allege for a moment about the backward queen. You've aggregate your adventures with the aristocratic ancestors broadly, but abounding bodies admired your accord with Her Majesty. What was that activating absolutely like? For a beam of a second, Meghan's announcement softened, afresh accustomed. Again. She, beyond her legs, leaned back and answered with an edge. I admired the Queen, of course, but account alone goes so far. Aback the absolute academy is ample, adjoin you. Bodies like to aggrandize our accord as if it was article special. But in reality, I was advised like an alien always. And, frankly, I anticipate the Queen could accept done added to stop it. Gasps bouncing through the studio. The weight of criticizing the Queen. Still a amount of abysmal account alike afterwards her casual was not absent on the American audience. Tamron didn't flinch. Her articulation remained smooth, her accent measured. Some abilities say that's a accurate assessment, abnormally accustomed. The accessible appearances area, the two of you seemed close. Do you feel your conceivably afterlight that accord through the lens of aggregate that followed? Meghan's arch airtight adjoin her, her articulation decrepit with superiority. No, Tamron. I anticipate I apperceive my own activity bigger than anyone else. It's agreeable aback journalists who weren't there try to psychoanalyze my relationships. With all due respect, you don't apperceive what I alive through. I do. Aciculate. Breathe echoed from the audience. Meghan's dismissiveness landed like a slap, but Tamron remained unshaken, her calm accord now akin a fortress. I don't agnosticism that you lived it, but you've additionally announced about afresh about those relationships. And aback accessible abstracts allotment their stories. It's accustomed for the columnist to ask questions. Abnormally aback versions of those beliefs shift. Meghan scoffed lightly, afraid her head. Actuality, we go with that annoyed band again. Versions shifting. Maybe, aloof, maybe. Things advance, aback you reflect on them. Or, would you adopt? I stick to the aforementioned calligraphy aloof to accumulate. Bodies like you, comfortable? The admirers murmured again, a striction simmering. Meghan was no best the able Amazon with anxiously abstinent words. She was barbed, defensive, about adventuresome Tamron to advance further. Tamron did. "Let's allocution about the move to America," she said, her articulation accustomed that attenuate weight that told admirers she was counsel into added waters. Abounding saw it as a alpha start. Others saw it as abandoning duty. How do you acknowledge? To those critics? Meghan sat straighter, her accent clipped. Critics will consistently exist. Frankly, I don't affliction what they think. We larboard a baneful environment. We chose freedom, and if bodies can't accept that, afresh maybe they're trapped in the aforementioned anachronous systems we escaped. I won't apologize for allotment my beatitude over a crumbling monarchy. There it was again, the disdain, the condescension. Tamron's eyes, abiding as steel, narrowed aloof a touch. Do you anticipate conceivably some of that antipathy for the absolution comes from claimed conflicts rather than systemic issues? Meghan's aperture coiled into a smirk. Are you suggesting I larboard because of claimed grudges? Please, I anticipate. Anyone with bisected a academician can see the bigger picture. This isn't about me actuality petty, Tamron. This is about injustice. But I wouldn't apprehend addition al fresco of that apple to accept the layers of it. It was an apparent put-down. The admirers murmured louder now, some alive uneasily, others whispering amid themselves. Tamron, still unbothered, artlessly absorbed her head. You allege of injustice. And yet, aback we attending at your activity now, the Netflix deals, the book, the podcast. Some would say you've benefited abundantly from the actual academy you criticize. Do you see why body's ability alarm that contradictory? Meghan's articulation rose, aciculate and impatient. Oh, please, the connected attraction with money and deals. We, congenital opportunities because we had no choice. We were cut off. Do you apprehend us to alive in poverty? To aloof, vanish agilely because bodies are afflictive with us afterwards al fresco of their adored monarchy? Tamron's acknowledgment was calm, surgical. I don't apprehend you to vanish, but I do anticipate there's a aberration amid adaptation and ascendancy building. And the criticism comes not from the success itself, but from the anecdotal you've congenital about struggle. To many, those two things don't absolutely add up. Meghan's eyes flashed with irritation. She leaned forward, her accent about mocking. Well, maybe that's because bodies adopt the bogey tale, the poor little Amazon disturbing a join the big bad palace. But activity isn't a bogey tale, Tamarind. It's messy. It's complicated. And absolutely frankly, best bodies aren't acute abundant to butt that. The insult afraid abundant in the air. The audience's acknowledgment was immediate. Us, a few boos, afraid laughter. Tamron remained poised, admitting her backbone was acutely fraying. Martin enough, she repeated, her articulation lower now, added deliberate. So, a back body's catechism your story, a back journalists ask for clarity, your acknowledgment is that they're artlessly not able abundant to understand. Yes, Meghan snapped, her affectation bottomward absolutely now. That's absolutely what I'm saying. Bodies don't get it. They never will. And honestly, I'm annoyed of assuming otherwise. The blackout that followed was deafening. Alike, the cameras seemed to ascendancy still, capturing the moment a anxiously crafted media persona unraveled. Into arrogance. Tamron leaned aback in her chair, her articulation calm but belted with finality. Well, she said softly, that's absolutely the statement. The admirers bankrupt into broadcast applause, admitting it was brave with discomfort. Meghan, ablaze, indefensive, beyond her accoutrements tightly, as admitting adventuresome anyone to claiming her further. Tamron, however, wasn't finished. She bankrupt her binder with advised slowness, the breeze of the affidavit punctuating the growing tension. "And we'll aces up appropriate there," she said, her eyes never abrogation Meghan's, "because I anticipate. Our admirers deserve to apprehend what happens aback able words accommodated accountability." The camera zoomed in on Meghan's bound jaw, her aggressive stare. Admirers at home leaned afterpiece to their screens, analysis the storm that was alone, alpha to brew. The air in the flat was so blubbery with restriction it about vibrated. Meghan sat rigid, accoutrements beyond like a barricade. Her eyes narrowed at Tamron. The audience, active now, could feel that this account had confused into an action zone. Tamron, still serene, confused her affidavit and offered the faintest of smiles. It wasn't warmth. It was the smile of addition acid their scalpel afford the abutting cut. "Meghan," Tamron began evenly, "we've announced about your abandonment from the aristocratic family, about your appearance of the institution, but I appetite to about face now to article actual personal. Your accord with added associates of the family, decidedly the Prince and Princess of Wales." Alike afore Meghan opened her mouth, her jaw tightened. Anybody knew this accountable was radioactive. "What about them?" Meghan snapped, her accent already defensive. Tamron, AG her arch slightly, unruffled. "There except been abundant letters over the years of restriction amid you and Catherine. The accessible has consistently admired her accord and faculty of duty. Some say there was rivalry. Did you feel overshadowed by her?" Meghan let out a aciculate laugh, a complete so breakable it fabricated the admirer's activity uncomfortably. "Overshadowed? Please." "I wasn't aggressive with her. I brought article absolutely different. Diversity, modernity, all-around perspective. If anything, Catherine was the one scrambling to acclimatize to me. The airs in her accent was unmistakable, a babble bouncing through the flat audience. Tamron's announcement remained calm, but her articulation acquired a attenuate firmness. And yet the accessible angel suggests article different. Catherine's acceptance alone seemed to acceleration as castigation began to falter. Did that bother you? Meghan leaned advanced now, her eyes flashing. What bothers me is how the media pits women adjoin anniversary other, as if two women can't abide in the aforementioned amplitude after actuality compared. Catherine has her role. I had mine. But let's be honest, the Academy adequate her in means they never adequate me. That's the alone acumen she's adored. After that shield, she wouldn't after most a week. The admirers gasped audibly. Tamron bound her hands, her articulation, affable but cutting. So, your adage Catherine's acceptance is artificial bogus by Alcazar machinery? Of advance it is, Meghan attempted back, her words aciculate as glass. Do you anticipate bodies absolutely affixed with addition who about speaks, about shows personality? It's branding, Tamron. Annihilation more. The insult afraid in the air like smoke. Alike some associates of the admirers shifted, visibly afraid with Meghan's harshness. Tamron, accustomed the blackout to amble aloof, connected abundant afore dispatch a back in. Some. Abilities say that sounds beneath like appraisal and added like envy. Is it difficult for you to see William and Catherine advancing in the role you and Harry absolved abroad from? Meghan's beam alternate this time, venomous. Envy? That's laughable. I larboard by choice. I didn't appetite that airless life. If they appetite to comedy dress up and smile for cameras until the day they die, that's their business. I'm aloft that. The admirers reacted again, a mix of gasps, murmurs, and broadcast bolt from a few supporters, but the all-embracing affection was alive adjoin her. Tamron leaned forward, her articulation lower now, abundant with intention. You say you're aloft, and yet you abide to allege about them, to analyze yourself to them, to anatomy yourself as a victim of the arrangement that they abide to serve. If you're absolutely aloft it, why accumulate revisiting it? Meghan stiffened. Because bodies, Accumulate allurement me, Tamron. I can't ascendancy what the accessible obsesses over. Tamron's acknowledgement was sharp, surgical. But you can ascendancy your own answers. You accept every time to acknowledgement to Catherine, to William, to grievances, to point fingers. That doesn't complete like actuality aloft it. That sounds like fixation. For the aboriginal time, Meghan's aplomb faltered. Her aperture parted, but no actual acknowledgement came. Her eyes flickered to join the audience, analytic for validation, afore snapping aback at Tamarind with renewed hostility. "You apperceive what, Tamarind?" she hissed. "I don't charge to absolve myself to you. You sit there with your addendum assuming you accept a apple you could never comprehend. You weren't bolter by tabloids. You weren't trapped by protocols. Don't you cartel abode me about fixation." The restriction in the allowance was electric. The admirers blind on every word, Tamron, still unflappable, artlessly aloft an eyebrow. "I'm not lecturing you, Meghan," she said calmly. "I'm celebratory what the draft of the apple sees. And what they see is a woman who cannot stop barometer herself, adjoin the actual ancestors she claims to accept larboard behind." The draft landed. Meghan's cheeks flushed, her accord bottomward further. She leaned back, bridge her accoutrements. Again, her blackout louder than any protest. Tamron confused hardly in her chair, advancing her abutting strike. "Let's footfall aback for a moment because this isn't aloof about family. This is about your narrative. You've corrected yourself as a disruptor, articulation of change, addition-breaking chargeless from an back-breaking system. And yet, at every turn, your words amphitheater are back to the palace, the monarchy, the comparisons. Some would say your appearance is absolutely authentic by the actual academy you denounce." The admirers acclaimed cautiously at the observation. A beachcomber of approval rolling adjoin Tamron. Meghan's acknowledgement came quickly, but her articulation trembled aloof hardly with emotion. "That's not true. I accept my own voice, my own projects, my own causes. I don't charge them to ascertain me." Tamron's eyes narrowed, her accent close but polite. "Afresh, conceivably it's time to prove it, Meghan. Because appropriate now, to many, it seems your Belvedere exists not because of who you are, but because of who you married. And that acumen matters." The flat fell silent. Meghan's face hardened, her aperture apprenticed into a tenuate line. She looked as admitting she capital to speak, to baste out, but no words came. For the aboriginal time, it was bright, Tamron had pushed her into a corner, and anybody watching knew. The breaking point was near. The flat lights glared hotter than ever. Admitting it wasn't the bulbs heating the room, it was the restriction amid the two women. Meghan Markle sat rigid, accoutrements bankrupt tightly, her button agi in adamant defiance. Tamron Hall, still built in with calm authority, placed her addendum bottomward on the table, about ceremonially, as admitting declaring, "We're done, assuming this is aloof an interview." "Meghan," Tamron began, her articulation softer but deadlier than it had been all morning. "You accumulate insisting you're cogent your truth, that you're aloft to the monarchy, that you've confused on, but aggregate about your attendance actuality today proves the opposite. You are still authentic absolutely by the crown." The words, afraid, heavy. Meghan's face twitched, able in the mask. "That's not fair," Meghan retorted quickly, her articulation rising. "I've formed endlessly on causes, projects, charity. I've created a all-around brand, Tamron." "I'm added, then aloof," Tamron cut her off, her articulation firmer now. "Added, then aloof, Prince Harry's wife. Because Meghan, that's what it looks like to the draft of the world. After Harry, after his ancestor's name, after the Alcazar you adulation to despise, you wouldn't be sitting actuality on my show. You wouldn't accept the Netflix deal. You wouldn't accept the podcast. You wouldn't alike except the absorption you're adhering to now." The admirers gasped collectively, the complete abscess like a wave. Meghan's eyes widened in shock, afresh, narrowed with fury. "How, Cartel, you abate me like that?" she hissed. "I had a career afore Harry. I was an actress. I had recognition." Tamron leaned forward, her boring sharp, her articulation acid through Meghan's beef like steel. "Recognition? Meghan, you were a acknowledging appearance on a cable drama. You weren't a all-around figure until you affiliated into that family. That's the truth, and the accessible knows it, alike if you debris to accept it." Meghan's aperture trembled as she approved to respond, but Tamron wasn't finished. Her articulation grew louder, advantageous the space. "You allocution about actuality silenced, about actuality victimized, but let's be real. You've profited every footfall of the way. You capital the palace's authority after the responsibility. You capital the titles after the duty. You capital to be advised like Diana, adored and untouchable. But you never put in the assignment she did." The name Diana sparked a beam of abuse in Meghan's eyes. "Don't you, Cartel, analyze me to her," she snapped, her articulation afrayed with anger. "Tamron didn't flinch. I'm not comparing. I'm contrasting. Diana had flaws, but she additionally had authenticity. She served. She fought for causes after consistently absorption herself. You, Meghan, accept, angry, every accident into and befalling to advertise a narrative, to advertise yourself." The admirers erupted with murmurs, some clapping, some gasping. Meghan sat frozen, her face ablaze crimson. "And let's abode article abroad while we're here," Tamarind continued, her accent now unrelenting. "Your attraction with Catherine and William. You can beard it about you like. Alarm at media obsession. Alarm at Alcazar favoritism. But the accuracy is plain. You resent them. You backbiting the account they command, the authoritativeness they represent, the adulation they accept from the public. And you can't angle it. That was the draft that burst the dam." Meghan's eyes abounding with tears, her blowing crumbling, as the admirers watched. She befuddled her arch furiously, whispering, "That's not true. That's not true." Admitting her articulation absurd with anniversary word, Tamron apprenticed the final artful home. "It is true, Meghan, because aggregate about your story, every interview, every complaint, every bucking circles aback to the aforementioned theme. You couldn't handle not actuality the centermost of attention. You couldn't angle not actuality. Catherine, so you larboard and you've been aggravating to absolve it any time. Since. But abysmal down, you know. After Harry's name, after that acme you abhor but depend on, you're nothing." Meghan gasped as if the words had physically addled her. Her tears agitated over, streaking bottomward her face, the absolute angel, assuredly breaking beneath the weight of Tamron's words. The flat was bashful now. No murmurs, no claps, aloof the complete of Meghan's quiet sobs as she covered her face with her hand. Tamron, advancement her composure, leaned aback slightly. Her articulation softened, but the animate in it remained. "I booty no amusement in adage this, Meghan, but the accuracy isn't consistently pleasant. And today, for once, addition had to say it to you." Meghan stood suddenly, her armchair abrading audibly adjoin the floor. "I don't accept to break actuality and be ashamed like this," she cried, her articulation breaking. "This is cruelty, not journalism." Tamron met her boring steadily. "No, Meghan, this is accountability." Security agents appeared agilely at the bend of the set, but Meghan coiled them off, affronted to join the avenue herself. The cameras followed her aloof, connected abundant to bolt the angel of the Amazon angry celebrity in tears beat the studio. Aback she was gone, Tamron angry aback to the camera. Her face was calm, her accent professional, but her eyes agitated the blaze of the announcer who had done what few dared. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "what you've aloof apparent is not about cruelty. It's about truth. Accessible abstracts don't get to accept it both ways. They don't get to change their belief a back convenient, to comedy victim a back challenged, to appeal a chord after scrutiny. That's not how journalism works, and it's not how accountability works." The camera zoomed afterpiece as Tamron delivered her closing line. Capital authenticity. This was it. And maybe, aloof maybe, it's the moment we all chock full ambagia celebrity with credibility. The awning achromatic to black. So now I appetite to apprehend from you. Do you anticipate Tamron went too far? Or was this absolutely the affectionate? Of bluntness the accessible has been cat and mouse for? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the best acclaimed TV clashes in contempo memory, accomplish abiding to hit that like button, accident. Subscribe, and about face on notifications so you don't absence the abutting adventure we